A furious royal statement, a bombshell book, and one 11-word remark that allegedly set off a chain reaction nobody in Buckingham Palace could ignore. If you think you already know the full story behind Harry and Meghan's falling out with the royal family, I promise you, you don't. Because right now, a brand new book is dropping claims so explosive that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex themselves had to come out swinging with one of the angriest statements they have ever released. And the details? Oh, there's something else. So buckle up because this story goes much deeper than the headlines are letting on. And by the end of this video, you are going to see this entire royal saga in a completely different light. Let's start right at the beginning because context here is everything. According to reports, author Tom Bower, yes, the same Tom Bower who has written critically about the royal family before, is releasing a new book titled Betrayal, Power, Deceit, and the Fight for the Future of the Royal Family. Portions of this book have already been serialized by the Times magazine, and what has come out so far has apparently been enough to send Harry and Meghan's team into full damage control mode. Now, I want to be very clear here. These are allegations made in a book and not officially confirmed by any of the parties involved, but the fact that the Sussexes responded as strongly as they did, that alone tells you something. So what exactly is being claimed? Let me walk you through it because there are multiple layers here, and each one is more interesting than the last. The first big claim involves a reconciliation meeting that allegedly took place back in 2018, not long after Harry and Meghan returned from their honeymoon. Now, remember, at this point, the world still believed in the so-called Fab Four. Harry, Meghan, William, and Kate were being photographed together, smiling, waving, doing all the royal things. Behind closed doors, however, sources claim the situation was already unraveling fast. According to Bower's book, this reconciliation meeting between the two couples spun out of control, and the alleged trigger? Meghan reportedly snapping at Prince William with the now infamous 11 words, "If you don't mind, get your finger out of my face." Now, look, I was not in that room. Nobody watching this video was in that room. These are unverified claims from a single author. But I'll be honest with you, if that exchange did happen anything close to the way it's being described, I can absolutely understand why things escalated the way they did afterward. Family dynamics are complicated enough without adding royal protocol, global media attention, and apparently some very tense finger-pointing into the mix. And it gets more layered from there. Bower also allegedly writes about William's concerns before the engagement even happened, claiming William had warned Harry that things were moving too quickly with, as he reportedly phrased it, the American actress. Now, whether you read that as a concerned brother or a snobbish dismissal probably says a lot about where you already stand on this whole debate. But what's interesting is that this alleged comment apparently set the tone for a relationship between William and Meghan that, according to multiple reports over the years, never truly recovered. Sources claim the tension was there from almost the very beginning, and Bower's book seems to be painting a picture of two very different personalities colliding in one of the most watched family institutions on the planet. But wait, because we are just getting started. The book also makes claims about Queen Camilla. According to reports from the serialized excerpts, Bower alleges that Camilla told a friend that Meghan had, quote, brainwashed Harry. Now, that is a serious allegation, and I want to emphasize again, this is not officially confirmed, and we are dealing here with what a book author is claiming a source told him. The palace has not addressed this specific point directly, but the mere fact that this claim is now circulating in a major publication, being read by millions of people, is significant in itself. Because whether or not the exact words were spoken, the broader narrative that senior royals were deeply uncomfortable with Harry's relationship and the influence it allegedly had on him has been reported on by multiple credible outlets over the years, so this is not coming entirely out of nowhere. Now, here is where the story shifts and frankly becomes a little more complicated to navigate. Bower dedicates a significant portion of his new book to Harry's Invictus Games, the charitable sports event created specifically to support wounded and injured military veterans. And this is where I personally feel the story gets the most sensitive, because we are now talking about something that is genuinely important and meaningful to a lot of people. According to claims in the book, Meghan allegedly viewed the Invictus Games as a global stage for genuine admiration and cheering fans. The book further alleges that executives in Canada, who were later dismissed, found Meghan to be, and this is a direct claim from the book, a distraction from the injured veterans, with one alleged source reportedly saying she's bling, not rehabilitation. That is a sharp and unambiguous statement. It is also, once again, an unverified allegation from a source cited in a book with a clearly critical perspective. The Invictus Foundation itself pushed back firmly. A spokesperson for the foundation said it was disappointing to see the Times give prominence to what they described as commentary driven by a long-established agenda, rather than a genuine understanding of the games and the community it supports. They also made a point that I think deserves to be highlighted, that attempts to question the legitimacy of competitors or diminish the experiences of veterans living with physical injuries and invisible wounds like PTSD are, in their words, deeply disrespectful. And honestly, that part I agree completely. Whatever your opinion on Harry and Meghan, the veterans who participate in those games have nothing to do with the politics surrounding the couple, and framing their experiences as the backdrop for celebrity drama does them a disservice. Full stop. The book also reportedly cites former Invictus Foundation head Dominic Reed as expressing internal concerns that the games had essentially become, in the described words of sources, the Harry and Meghan show. It further alleges poor attendance at certain events, crowd padding for cameras, and tightly managed photo opportunities that sources claim overshadowed the competitors themselves. The foundation has rejected these characterizations, and once again, I want to be careful here. These are allegations, and the foundation's official response paints a very different picture of the event's intent and execution. Now, let's talk about the Sussex response, because it is genuinely one of the more fascinating parts of this whole story. A spokesperson for Harry and Meghan didn't hold back. They described Tom Bower's commentary as having long crossed the line from criticism into fixation. They also pointed out, and this is factually verifiable, that Bower has previously stated publicly that the monarchy in fact depends on actually obliterating the Sussexes from our state of life. That quote is real, and it matters when evaluating the objectivity of the author making these claims. The spokesperson went on to say that Bower has made a career out of constructing ever more elaborate theories about people he does not know and has never met, and finished with a line that is, I will admit, kind of savage in a very calculated way, saying, "Those seeking deranged conspiracy and melodrama know exactly where to find him." Ouch. That is not a statement written by someone trying to be polite. That is a statement written by someone who is genuinely angry and wants the world to know it. And here's my honest take on all of this. I think there are real, legitimate questions buried inside what is clearly a one-sided narrative. The relationship between the Sussexes and the rest of the royal family has been strained for years. That is not a secret or a conspiracy. It is documented history. At the same time, Tom Bower has a track record of writing critically about this specific subject, and that is important context for anyone trying to evaluate how much weight to give these specific claims. A book written with an apparent agenda doesn't automatically mean every claim inside is false, but it does mean you should read it with your critical thinking fully switched on. The truth, as it so often is in situations like this, probably lives somewhere in the complicated, messy middle ground between a furious Sussex statement and a book whose author has publicly wished for their obliteration. What I find genuinely interesting is how this entire saga keeps cycling back to the same fundamental tension, the clash between an ancient, image-obsessed institution and two people who, for better or worse, decided they were not willing to play by its rules. Whether that makes Harry and Meghan heroes or villains seems entirely to depend on which side of the Atlantic you're watching from, and honestly, maybe that tells us more about us than it does about them. What is clear is that this book is going to keep the conversation going for weeks. More excerpts will likely surface, more statements will probably follow, and more people will form strong opinions based on whichever version of events they already believe. That's the royal drama machine, and at this point, it shows absolutely no signs of slowing down. If you found this breakdown useful, make sure you're subscribed because there is a lot more royal coverage coming as this story continues to develop. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I genuinely want to know where you stand on this one.